Oh, I got some lemon ginger tea.
Oh shit! My kettle's on. My kettle's on. I'll be right back.
Mike! I gotta pee again already. I peed after we finished that podcast. Hello, welcome to the Ink Pit. I'm Dave Mercier of mercworks.net, Fuck. Let's try that again. Okay, let me try that again. Hello, welcome to the Ink Pit. I'm Dave Mercier of Mercworks at mercworks.net, and we also have Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike King, and I am from Arkansas. I'm from Arkansas, right? That's where I'm from. And you can see my comics at pleasekeepwarm.com. And also on social media that you can find the links to at pleasekeepwarm.com. Please go to my website.
It's a good thing you've got that. It's a good thing you've got all that social media.
Yeah.
Rachel's here too. Rachel of Mixtape Comics is also here, but she's not talking. We're just going to look at her.
She's working.
I'm
Rachel and I'm doing a giant graphic novel.
So cool. I wanted to talk about failure today, Mike. What do you think about that?
I'm very familiar and comfortable with the subjects.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes with the territory of being a cartoonist to some extent, don't you think?
I think it goes with the territory of being alive.
Well, that's actually a great point. I thought of this because I had what I perceived to be a monumental failure recently, which I'm kind of excited to tell you about.
I'm excited. You were supposed to tell me about this. You were supposed to tell me about last week, but I had a monumental hard drive failure.
That's right. So it all ties in, really.
So tell me about it.
Well, anyone who is a fan might know that I do a lot of illustration for College Humor. And I've done some occasional writing for them too. And you may know that they tend to target a college demographic. A lot of stuff about, condoms and beer, that sort of thing. Not disparaging. I'm just setting the tone here. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of illustration for them, and they asked me if I wanted to start working for them on a regular basis. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome, because how do you make money as a cartoonist, right? Mostly commissions. So
Selling
for
books?
me. Yeah, selling books is better. It's more fun.
I gotta expand.
Go ahead. Well, so they wanted me to start writing for them and on a weekly basis. And I was like, I can definitely do this. This is cool. So we set up a time for me to go to their office, and I was going to do a pitch for them in a pitch room, which is a little different than my standard setup.
Hey, Cat, how do you feel about this joke, Cat?
Yeah. I'm pitching things to the cats, and they laugh every time. Very easy audience. So, boy. So anyway, I go to New York, which is a city that I don't particularly care for, to be totally honest. And they're right there in Manhattan in this kind of beautiful building, and I go in there, and I'm nervous, but I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm a professional. I'm real cool, and I don't know anybody in this room, and there's like 20 people, and everyone starts going around the room and they're pitching titles, right? Like, the 5 best things to do with your left hand while you're jerking off. They're just pitching titles,
just
whatever.
Real clever shit.
Yeah, you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm not disparaging by any means. But so I do
5 best Bukowski quotes. What William Carlos Williams would have thought about the iPhone. White, actually, small, so beautiful good. And strong.
You would have done better in this pitch meeting than I did. Because I went in there with these comic ideas that I thought of the night before, and they were not good. They were really bad. So I should say, it took me 3 hours to drive here. I'm in this meeting. It's in this weird, sterile corporate building, and there's 20 people who are funnier than me staring at me. And I'm pitching these ideas that I don't have a lot of faith in. So I pitch them. I don't really get any laughs. It's not great. And I spend the rest of the day there just thinking about how bad a job I did. Just thinking about maybe I'm not good enough to do this job. Maybe I'm not a good cartoonist. Maybe this whole past 4 years was a waste of time and I'll never be able to do this well. And it overwhelmed me. And so finally, like 3, 4 o'clock, I was like, guys, I gotta go. Like I'm dying inside. I didn't say that, obviously. So I go out to the parking garage and they swipe my card for me to get my car out and it gets denied. I don't have any money to get my car out of the parking garage. And I sit down on their parking garage bench and I was on the verge of tears. I wanted to be dead. So I went out and I begged. And it turns out I'm not very good at begging. No better anyway than at writing.
Begging in Manhattan is probably the worst.
It didn't work out. It wasn't great. So ultimately, I had my girlfriend buy 2 books from the website, and I got my car out, and then had 3 hours drive home to think about it and to think about all that stuff some more. Just what a piece of shit I was.
Can we pause? That is the most creative way of transferring money I have ever heard of.
Yeah, well, I had to think outside the box. I mean, like, when you're in that situation, again, I'm on the verge of tears. I've never felt like more of a failure in my whole life. Like, this, I was, like, excited. I really thought, like, maybe I could do this. And all of this, like, just was staring me in the face. I can't do this. And it fucked me up. It put me into this like crazy depression for like weeks. I had to kind of sort it out, but ultimately I looked back on it and I looked at the stuff that I wrote for them and I was like, this is terrible. I think I was sabotaging myself, truthfully. Maybe my intuition, I knew it wasn't right for me or something like that, but it was a big failure and it was hard to stomach, and we deal with it a lot in comics.
Yeah.
That's my story.
Almost anytime someone posts to Reddit.
Well, that's one of the more common ones, is like you think a comic's going to do really well and then it's a total bomb.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it for some reason and you don't ever know why.
So are you ever going to attempt to pitch them again?
I'm still doing illustrations for them. I'm doing an illustration for them right now. At the time, I was like, "This is it. I've burned this bridge. I'll never get anything from this connection. I don't really want to write for them." That's what I found out. I don't write that way. It's just not the kind of thing I'm good at. So happy to illustrate for them.
Yeah. And to be fair, like a lot of people think they want to do certain things and they aren't really sure what that means. Like before you knew what this meant, you wanted to. And then you saw the process. Like, imagine if you had gone to, like, college for 5 years to, like, do this thing and then saw the process like that.
Yeah.
Like, you got off easy, bro.
Yeah, I really did. And
there's this thing called animation school that people do all the time.
Yeah.
And, let me tell you, that's not the greatest. Rachel is going to chime in.
Apparently.
I just want to comment regarding animation school that not only does the process take 3 to 5 years, the current incoming price that you're locking yourself into that you have to pay whether you graduate or not is over $100,000 for 3 to 5 years worth of education. So you're not only out a career and industry and your time, you're out $100,000 that you have to pay back whether you get a job in the industry or not. Mm-hmm. So be careful. Yeah. Predatory loans, for-profit schools, etc. Do your homework. Maybe don't go to animation school.
Yeah.
Also, I love cartoons with all of my life force. I would literally rather kill myself than work animation on any of those shows. That is so crazy.
I would still love to work in the industry. Not knocking the industry in any way. Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, you are all my friends. I love you guys. Friend. Yeah.
I'm just your customer. I'm not your friend. These companies.
But like if you go on Tumblr and talk to, Maddie Flores or Rebecca Sugar or like any of the people that are working on any of these shows right now, I think maybe only half of them even went to college for this thing. Maybe that's even a high number. Like most of them are just really good humorists and good cartoonists that made their way into the industry. Not most people that are currently like working on the big popular shows right now don't actually have that background education. So you can do it. It's a good way to learn if you learn that way. It's also very expensive and takes the time. And if you're already amazing, maybe you don't need to do that.
Or also maybe try to find an internship before you go to school or something. Like maybe go and see how the sausage gets made for a week, or talk to somebody who makes the sausage.
Yeah, in California, you can't get an internship unless you're a student, basically.
Can you talk to
Because it's
people?
an either or. Probably. You could probably still talk to people. You can always reach out to people on social media and that sort of thing. In the state of California, it's an either or. You either get class credit or you get paid for your internship. And most companies will not do paid internships. They'll just pull from local schools. That's why it's beneficial to, go to art college, is because then it gives you the opportunity to take, an internship with Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or whomever, which you could possibly translate into a job later.
Cool. Get back to work,
right,
Rachel.
I'm going back to work, guys.
All right, Rachel's peacing out again.
So how do you feel you've benefited from this failure in any way?
Well, so that's actually what the meat of this is once I realized, no, I can't do this, it narrowed it down to, no, I can't do this for College Humor. And I have been doing this well for a really long time. So how am I going to make this work? And it motivated me to do a big push on my Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/merkworks, and sell a ton more books. So I've just been pushing. I've been saying, like, okay, well, if I can't do it that way, then I have to do it this way. And this way I actually can do. So a lot of times out of failure, you find out what you actually are good at if you can accept the failure for what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have any failures like that?
I like to think of my career, if you want to call it that, is actually just a tower of failures.
Mm-hmm.
Like when something's not working, I am the first person to say, this is over. I'm doing something new. Like, and I feel bad about it for a little bit, but like until I was 21, I wanted to play music. I was touring all the time. I had never drawn, like, really. Like, that was my thing, and I failed at it, and I am so glad I failed at it, because...
What was the breaking point?
Just the fact that I realized I couldn't rely on other people. Wait, what are you showing me, Rick? Oh, Rachel has written failing up. Yeah, no, like, the breaking point was luckily I have a decent understanding of how, like, business works, because I was raised by people who imparted that information on me, and I was able to look at how much money I was making, which was reasonable, and I was able to sort of figure out the potential, and it just like after I had done it for a long time, it also wasn't the thing I wanted to do anymore, just because you had to rely so much on other people. And I don't know if you know this about musicians, but per capita, probably the highest substance abusers, people who don't like to wake up at 6 a.m. Like,
sure.
Just, you would go on, like, a tour that was, like, 2 months, and just, it would be preventable problem after preventable problem because I was relying on other people. And I had actually drawn... I didn't even get into comics after that. I had started just doing graffiti, and, like, I learned to draw to do that and hanging out. And then I failed to not get arrested multiple times. And while on probation, I started making zines and comics because I had to apply those skills somewhere. And so and every time, like, I fail at something, like, it's just, what did I learn from this failure? Like, what do I need to, like, do differently next time? Like, my current project that I just ended, like, I was trying to do 2,000 pages of something called Lion's Teeth. And I was really depressed because I pretty much stopped after 1,000. I was depressed about drawing 1,000 pages of something
because it wasn't enough.
Well, it wasn't it was still a failure. But, like,
yeah.
I'm starting a new thing that I'm taking all these things I learned, and just right off the bat, it's going to be better and more successful than it was after I had continued beating this thing into the ground.
Well, and that's, I think, the crux of this whole premise that I'm a fan of, is that the attitude of, I've failed, how am I going to do it differently now?
Yeah,
is very important.
If you can figure out why you failed, you can not do that next time. Like,
exactly.
You may not do something that's successful next time, but you've got another thing on your list of things that you don't want to repeat.
Well, and it's not only just that, it's the ability to get back up and say, that's fine. I can still do whatever I want to do instead of letting it get the better of you. A lot of people give up, and like, it's okay to fail and to learn from it and keep trying and do a different thing, approach it a different way.
Yeah, like anyone listening who's only been drawing comics for like a year, I've got some horrifying news for you. Like, you know, depending on how lucky you are, you might only have 3 or 4 years of constant failure and like not having things work. And that's like if you start knowing how to draw. Like,
this business in particular is one of experimentation. Like, you need to try shit, and it might not work.
Yeah, like not only
Probably
is it a business of experimentation, it's a saturated market. Like there's so many people trying to do comics that you have to find people who don't have a person trying to do comics talking to them. Like,
well, and you have to do better than all your peers, right?
Yeah.
At your skill level.
It's,
or, you know, fail and learn how to do it better every time. I don't know.
Yeah. Failure is just a great chance to reevaluate and start something new. Like, there's so many people I know who year after year I see them continuing the same concept. And that concept is not like, it's different if that concept is making you a living and you require it for rent. But when it's your second job, there is no like, there's a term in like, I don't know what it is, but it's like the lost time or lost cost fallacy. And it's, I can't quit this because I've already spent like, it's like, I can't get rid of this house because I've already sunk like $20,000 into it to repair it. But the idea is if it's cheaper to just spend another $20,000 and do a new project, people will still continue the project if it will cost more. This was very poorly worded just because they've already spent something. And it's called sunk cost. But like,
it's called what?
Sunk cost. But like, just because you've spent 10 years on a project doesn't mean the best idea is to continue doing that project.
And it doesn't mean that you should stop completely either.
Yeah.
You can still do it. But I mean, you can do a different thing in that same field, like comics, for instance.
Yeah, I can say without a doubt, every single time I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years, and I retool once or twice a year completely. And like, I lose people, but every time I do it, my audience grows dramatically. Like, by not trying to beat the same thing into the ground.
I had someone tell me once, and this, I had been dating a girl for like 5 years, and then we broke up. She moved away. This was a long time ago. And I was devastated, and I was like trying to date, but I was so scared all the time, right? And this guy tells me, he says, if you want to have any success, if you want to succeed once, you have to fail 100 times first. And what I love about that phrase is that it takes the fear out of failure, because you will have that one success.
And you feel really great when you succeed after 30 times.
Yeah, exactly. It makes that success that much better. And it really did take the fear out of it for me. And then, you know, like, that wound up being a lot of comic fodder for me, the failure of that. So you can take those failures and use them in various other ways as well.
I mean, the thing is, like, every time something goes wrong, just don't repeat it.
Yeah.
I know that's easier said than done, and because I'm a man of continuing patterns. But like, if you can identify certain patterns and get rid of them, it'll work out for you. And
actually, it's worth asking your friends. I've heard it said that we're completely unaware of our own patterns. So we go through the same cycle over and over again, and we're oblivious to it. But your friends see it, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? He keeps doing the same. He keeps going out with the same type of girl who's screwing him over every time. Why does he keep doing this? And they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Oh, geez. Well, anyway. So maybe ask your friends how you're feeling. They might know better than you.
So
this is harder with just 2 people.
Yeah, it's much harder. But so how can we expand this? Because okay, so I'm gonna write down 33 minutes 25 seconds.
We've got a good premise, and we've set it up fairly well. Yeah. I don't know.
So
sure.
Where can we go from here?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I have things to weigh in about this, but I don't have any specific anecdotes. But like, just in general, though, like, you know, having started out, you know, doing webcomics and turning that into micro-publishing and then distribution, and thank you. That's very helpful. I really do need to put water on my glasses. Hold on. having started out just doing webcomics and turning that into micro-publishing and distribution, and then deciding I didn't want to do that anymore, and now I'm just trying to be a cartoonist. It took me 10 years to get, from point A to point B. And, outsiders looking in, they're like, oh man, you were such a good distributor and micro-publisher. And I'm like, no, guys, I really wasn't. Like, not at all.
I
Like,
don't want to talk about Milk Buddy books.
but it was a complete learning experience. And I can look back on it and like be very aware of the things that I did wrong and the things that I learned along the way. Like, okay, here's an example. So, the first couple of years that I was doing comics, I was strictly making mini comics and selling them at conventions. I had, no distribution method at all. It was all direct to consumer. I wasn't retailing to stores or any of that sort of stuff. And I decided to put together an anthology called Side A, which was an anthology about music and its influence on art and life in the creative process. And we knew we wanted to get it into bookstores, and we knew, we being me and my partner Mike, not this Mike who is, my convention partner, but my other partner Mike who was helping me with all my business. Yeah. So Mike is making crude gestures with his hands, and I'm laughing.
Wait, are we gonna put this in the podcast?
I don't know, but I knew that I wanted wider distribution for this, but the only distributor that I knew at the time was Diamond, for comics. And I hadn't met Tony Shenton yet. I didn't know about any of that sort of thing yet. And so I put this book together and I printed it. And after it was all printed and I had 1,010 copies of them sitting in my living room, I actually looked up, how to distribute through Diamond. And you have to have an ISBN in order to even pitch to them to pick up and distribute your book. And I had no idea. And so now I had these 1,000 books sitting in my living room that I had to figure out how to retail and distribute myself. We still contacted Diamond anyway, and they were like, no, thanks, but no thanks. Plus no ISBN. And we're like, okay, cool, whatever. But I was able to take that information and that experience and use it when we did the next book 2 years later called Side B. Mm-hmm. And we ordered the ISBN and we made a dummy copy at Kinko's that was spiral bound and overnighted that to Diamond rather than sinking all the money into printing the whole run before we pitched it to the distributor. We made, 2 copies, one for ourselves and one to send to Diamond. And said, hey, would you be interested in distributing this? Here's our ISBN. Here's our dummy copy before we spend all this money. Mm-hmm. And
so sure shit.
Yeah. The next morning they called us and we're like, hey, yeah, we totally want this thing. Please go to print. And so from there, rather than having 2,000 copies of the book in our living room, half the copies sold right away and were sent from the printer to Diamond,
And the Side A stayed on your table for the next decade.
I still have 12 of them left. They're on a shelf in my closet.
There's something to be said about learning from other people's failures too. So I learned something just now.
Yeah. So I mean that's just a really specific instance. But like now I know what retailers need and what distributors need, and I've learned along the way. Now I worry about putting copyright in the indicia and all of this sort of stuff. Is this a product I'm going to be retailing directly? What is the retail cost versus the wholesale cost? Like, these are things that I now think about, 10 years down the road that I didn't know anything about in the very beginning.
So, so now that my hard drive has died and I have to completely reset up my books, can you maybe go over with me what should be in the indicia page? Because I did not pay attention at CCS because I was like, fuck copyright. I just wrote no copyright in the beginning of all my books.
Oh no.
I mean, I still think that that's a good way to go, because I think even if somebody's making money on your product and if they're reaching people that you would not have reached, it's morally wrong that they made money, but there's a light side of all darkness.
So let me ask you this: how do you feel if your comic gets rehosted on Imager or something?
There's a light side to every darkness. Me and Rachel
a lot of people have problems with that.
Me and Rachel have very different attitudes about this. I I can see no problem with expanding my brand presence, to use that phrase. Even, like, if somebody's making money off of my stuff. I don't like it. It's not morally justified, but I don't think there's anything I can do about it. So I'm just going to meditate and let that shit go.
And it's better for more people to see it. That's my philosophy on it.
I don't disagree with you guys. I just don't want people making money off of the thing that I made. Like,
Yeah.
It can be frustrating.
Yeah.
it should be my money. I barely pay my bills every month. Like, I need that $20 in ad revenue. Like,
I think the reason I'm able to let it go is because that is money that I did not have the potential to make in the first place. Like, I did not have the infrastructure, the advertising, the audience to capitalize on it. And it sucks that they're making that money, but it's not, and they're using my product, but it's not money, it's not like they're taking money from me.
Yeah, those people who saw it on their site will never have seen it on your site in 100
yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, you guys are right.
Like, and, I don't know how we got here, but it's kind of like failure. This is a real issue, you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been of the opinion that, like, it's morally wrong, but there's still a hint of good, and you never would have had that hint of good if they had not done that. If they have not committed that crime.
This is the thing, though, that I'm thinking. Like, if someone takes one of my comics fully intact and posts it on their site and makes money off of it, I'm okay with that, because the URL is still on there. People can potentially find their way back to me. That does have that silver lining for me. My problem is when it's shit like 9gag, where they cut the URL off and then there's not that potential for people to ever make their way back to me. Like,
that actually frustrates me too.
That's the difference. Like,
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say any human being who goes to 9gag.com is not gonna buy one of my books. Like, who goes to 9gag.com? That's crazy.
We're sorry if you read 9gag, but also
I'm not.
Stop it.
I am not sorry. That's like E-Bomb's world. If you're under 18,
no,
it's
like
not okay.
I've had, when that Life Without a Cat thing went viral, I had people that would take the time to track me down and email me. Like, hey, I read this on 9gag. There was no URL on it. It was good enough that I figured there was more. I had to use reverse Google image search and, like, find your Tumblr. You know, I really like your comics. Like, I did have that happen.
Here's what I'm saying. Those people would not have found you if they did not steal your thing.
Right.
No, that's true.
Like,
you know, but look at how much extra effort it took for them to find me because they chopped the fucking URL off of it. Excuse my language. Like,
I do not begrudge you your anger or blame you for it.
Not at all.
I can't.
I'm less angry than I sound.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just annoying.
I feel like maybe like 9 months ago you're a little angrier.
December of whatever year it was that happened, when I wrote that post and had all the, like, rough stats on it, I was definitely upset.
But here's the thing is, like, people were very interested in that information, and you just writing about it was a chance to talk to people and get your name out there. Like, it still sucks, but it's here's the moral of this whole thing. Every bad thing and failure has a silver lining if you can use it. Like,
yeah, if we're underlining our whole topic, there is a silver lining to all bad. Maybe not all bad, but
even if the best thing you can do is make a post about your failure. Who's the guy who did Troop 142? The guy from the Ink Panthers.
What is?
There was a guy whose most popular Tumblr post was talking about his failure. Like,
oh, really?
And yeah. Like,
that's ironic. And
yeah.
also, I would have been sad if that was my most popular post, was about how I failed. I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's date this podcast a little bit for future listeners, but, like, on the, you know, most recent Parks and Rec, like, that's the whole thing is not to. Okay, wait.
I haven't seen it, so don't spoil it for me.
I don't watch television.
That's
okay,
show. I'm working
all I'm gonna say is y'all both need to go watch the last Parks and Rec, because it's very topical to this conversation, which is why I kind of thought we were having it. Go watch the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, no, I love that show.
This is gonna sound crazy, person, but I've actually made the personal decision to stop consuming episodic television.
That's fine.
I have no problem with that.
But everyone's always like, you gotta watch this. And I'm like, I can't, because if I watch one episode, I have to watch 900 episodes.
It becomes a time suck. I totally feel you. Just go watch the last episode of Parks and Rec.
I really like watching comedies that align with my sensibilities because I do think that it's almost like market research. Like, it makes me feel inspired. Like, I've been laughing. That's better for me to make jokes with if I've got a smile on my face.
And I have a problem with engaging with visual mediums in that way. It's just a personal problem, but like I don't get ideas from comics very well. I don't get ideas from film. Like, but if I sit down and like read a book, I'm engaging with those ideas and thinking about them in a way like if I read a book and there's people camping, I'll have jokes in my head about camping. If I watch a show and people are camping, I'm so engaged with the show that I'm not having my own thoughts.
Oh, I absolutely get that way as well. And usually, like, I won't make a joke about anything that was in the show. It's just like, I'm in the right mindset now. I'm in a good mood now.
There's something about the way my brain processes visual information that I've identified where I am not having my own thoughts at the same time. And it's a personal problem for me, but like watching those things makes me unable to write. Like, I don't know why.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
That's totally legit.
But I identified that failure and stopped watching things while I was drawing.
Look at us. We are so on point. These themes.
So, no, that's the thing is every single decision I make is generally me identifying a problem in my life and attempting to stop.
And I think if you are not identifying those problems or actively trying to, I think that is almost like a fear of failure because you don't want to recognize what kind of makes you shitty. But it's important to.
Every single Sunday, I have a new ritual that I've been doing for a few months. I look at all the comics I drew in the previous week and identify the shortcomings. I sit down for an hour, I spread them out, and I look. I'm like, where did I go wrong here? Where was I half-assing it? What wasn't funny? And like, I think my work has significantly improved. And like, I've always had this problem where if I'm not directly creating something, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to take time to just think, not draw a thing. Like, kind of taking up meditation, kind of embarrassed about it, but that's fine.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
But like, one of my main failures, like, I've produced a lot of work, and one of my main failures is not taking the time to reflect on any of the things I've done and identifying what's good or bad about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the big benefit of my time at CCS. Like, that's what especially second year, like, that's what second year was for me. That was the problem with me creating comics prior to CCS was I didn't have that self-awareness to be able to recognize like what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. And going through the process of second year and having to just spend a year locked in my apartment with my work gave me that skill.
Hey, Rachel.
It's hard to be honest with yourself.
Is infinitely better for it.
Hey, Rachel.
What?
You need to check your second year privilege. Not all of us got to go to second year at CCS. Some of us had nervous breakdowns, okay?
No, but you know what? Yeah. Clearly you spend that time with your work that, you need to.
Yeah. No, but reflection is very important. Like,
yeah, and honest reflection.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's even broadening out beyond comics. I think that's true of any aspect of your life.
Yeah. Why am I doing these things? Confront them beforehand.
Like I learned in public.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I lagged. Oh well.
Oh, okay. I heard everything you said.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I saw Rachel pointing at her earphones looking for what she was saying.
Well, your mouth was moving, but there was no sound coming out, and then Dave was talking, and I could hear Dave, but then halfway through Dave, the sound that had been lost from Mike came in.
I see.
It was weird.
Yeah, I think we all lagged at once.
Yeah. So, failure is important. What are some great failures in history? No, sorry.
I mean, I don't look forward to failure. Failure is shitty. Like I said, I was depressed for weeks, but it's about coming back from it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing is, as long as when you fail, you're identifying what went wrong, it can only do you well. Because if you didn't fail, you would have just continued on that path, and clearly you weren't succeeding before you failed.
Right.
Like, a lot of people, or a lot of projects, you'll be going, and, like, you won't be failing, but, like, it won't be making an impact. And, like, that's also a problem. Like, if you're doing something for 6 years and nobody is noticing, like, even if nobody's saying that this sucks, there's still something going wrong.
How do you know when, like, if that's the case, how do you identify when you have actually failed? What is the breaking point?
I think that's a personal issue in question.
Yeah.
Like, it's what are your
Sure.
goals? But I mean, I have recently identified that whether I like it or not, if my goal is to reach a larger audience, my constant decision to not use color is a failure. Like,
Sure.
anytime I've posted a comic in color, it has gotten tremendous amount more notes, even if the joke is worse, it gets a better response. And me fighting tooth and nail to stay punk rock has hurt me. That's been a failure in my life. Like, me trying to hold on to like something like credibility, which isn't something I actually care about. Like, as long as like I'm happy, I'm perfectly happy doing color. The only reason I wasn't doing color was for other people, which is weird. But you know, I'm identifying failures in myself, my drive.
Yeah, we're making breakthroughs. It feels like a therapy session.
Sort of. Except I can afford it. Insurance. That's a failure in my life, not getting insurance.
Oh, come on. You gotta pay taxes on that now.
We need to move on from this before we get political.
I guess just underlying the whole message, like, don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to recognize when you have failed.
Can I say these bits where we're trying to figure out what we're doing are much more comfortable now?
Yeah.
That was so stressful the first time. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, we didn't really know what we were doing.
So I think the big takeaway is Rachel failed to stay off the mic.
It's true.
But no, I mean, like,
a welcome failure.
The thing is, like, no matter what you try to do, you're gonna fail. Like, and it's about applying that failure. Like,
yeah.
If you don't
succeed right away.
If you don't fail, go fuck yourself. Like, fuck you. I don't like you.
Yeah.
And also,
we're all just an amalgamation of our failures.
Also, like, if you're cruising along and you're feeling like you're not failing about anything, you're probably wrong. Like, you probably need to reevaluate.
Sorry.
Yeah, check that shit.
Like,
so check yourself. Be honest with yourself.
I think that's the message. Just
fail. Yeah, that's
just
it.
Stay positive about things. It's gonna be okay. Like,
yeah.
Don't cry. You can cry if you want. I'm okay. I've done that.
Sometimes
before.
It's fine to. I think you need to. Sometimes.
When my hard drive did like a click and beep, I'll publicly say I cried. Like, I
was literally scream weeping on my way home from that trip.
Yeah. No. Like, I wasn't, I hadn't quite checked I started to check my external hard drive and saw what I still had. Like, I was like, okay, so I lost like 2 weeks worth of full-time processing work. Still a big deal, but it's not the same as something being gone forever.
It could have been worse for sure.
So, things are gonna go wrong. And make them go right.
Keep your perspective.
Exactly.
I'm Dave Mercier of mercworks.net.
I'm Rachel Dukes of mixtapecomics.com and frankiecomics.com.
I'm Mike King of pleasekeepwarm.com, all caps.
And we did it.
Thank you, guys. I would like to think that we did not fail at this. I think we may have failed a little bit, but it's okay.
We probably had worse failures.
Oh, there's an episode that we haven't posted that I'm still trying to figure out how to edit together. I came back to it later, and there may be an episode with our lovely friend Andrew Greenstone. comicsarforkids.tumblr.com or his.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
I'll be interested to listen to that one.
We're gonna try, and if we don't, we know what went wrong, and we'll have our baby Andrew back on soon, and we'll do it right.
All right, we did it. We did it, you guys.
You know,
we did it
on 3. We did it. 1, 2, 3.